So all the plants you see depicted here have been built since 1998. So we had a real big building surge there. Like I said, those are world scale plants. They range anywhere from about $500 million to $1.1 billion as far as asset value. Also, all the sites you see here, all the coke sites, are up and running on Maximo 7.6 with oil and gas, with the exception of the site in India, which is a joint venture. So a little history, Maximo at SunCok, our Maximo project got approved in 2009 in May. At that point in time, SunCok had no systems whatsoever. We had no, even electronic, we didn't use Excel for work orders, no paper work orders. Our purchasing system in the plants were telephone. So we're really kind of knocking two rocks together. When that project was approved, we were challenged by our senior management to see if we could have the system up and running by October of that year, because we're starting up a new coke plant in St. Louis, Granite City facility. And we actually were able to pull that off. So about 2 weeks before the plant came online, we rolled Maximo out, so that plant's entire history is now built into Maximo. After that, we implemented it at each coke site about roughly 4 months apart. We finished all those up. We looped back, did the corporate office in August 2010. In June of 2012, at that point in time, we knew we were going to be spinning off of SunCok, and we were going to be losing some of the legacy systems we were using from the mothership. One of them was our MOC process. So we really went after the oil and gas application, mainly to get after the MOC, but there obviously was a lot of interest in some of the other applications that were in that industry solution. So we upgraded to oil and gas in June of 2012. April 2013, we went to Maximo 7.5, mainly for the procurement functionality that came with that. December 2013, we developed a framework between Maximo and Pi. So we actually have the ability to generate work orders based on meter readings electronically, and also like on process conditions. Real simple ones, we got some really critical thermocouples in our ovens which operate over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So anytime one of those fails, Maximo immediately generates a work order to get that replaced on an emergency basis. Those are very important. Earlier this year, we upgraded to Maximo 7.6 and also oil and gas 7.5. In May of 2016, we had a real successful implementation of our Mica RCM bolt-on tool from MaxGroup, which is one of the IBM partners that exhibit here. And right now we're in the midst of implementing the incident application within Maximo, but we're also using the Aqueous Solutions bolt-on, which provides a little bit more functionality than base Maximo oil and gas, namely the OSHA logs, which is real important for us. So here's, since we're at an oil and gas conference, just real quick, our kind of footprint in oil and gas that we use at SunCok. All the, orange colored applications are base Maximo that we use at SunCok. The blue, and it doesn't really look good on the screen here, but I guess those were light green, are either oil and gas or industry partner bolt-ons. So as you can see, we implemented MOC first in 2012. We processed 1,700 MOC records through that application since 2012. We have 560 investigations completed, and we call the RCFA, but it's an investigation module of Maximo. 160 defects. We've got 5 active Mica RCM studies going on right now. And like I said, hopefully in about a month we'll be rolling out the incident application. Maybe we can give a presentation on that here next year. And one thing important to note, and I guess I didn't connect all my lines here, but all those applications generate actions, okay? So any action that comes from any of those apps goes into the action tracking application. So any non-work order-based action in any of our plants now falls into action tracking. It's either one place or the other. And I think I looked at 780 active actions assigned to engineers, people like that, with their name, due dates. All these processes make heavy use of escalations, all kind of automated reports come out on overdue items. So bottom line is every functional department in the SunCok manufacturing uses Maximo pretty heavily now. Environmental, safety, obviously maintenance, operations, all through this network of oil and gas tools. However, at one time or another, SunCok has really presented every one of these applications, either at this conference or at the MUG. So we're going to kind of take a little bit of a departure for that and talk about two things that we did just this year. Last year when I was at this conference, and I was at MUG conference last year, I was kind of throwing out the net to see how many Maximo customers was actually using the consignment function within Maximo inventory. Lots of people use inventory, have been for a long time. Consignment was fairly new. I found some business partners that were pretty knowledgeable about it, but I could not find one client that actually implemented. So, and now he's going to talk us through what he's done to help, do some light configuration changes there to help us functionally roll that up in our work process at SunCok. And in addition to that, another project that Anand did for us was working on enhancements to allow us to better manage capital projects within the Maximo app. So with that, I'll turn it over to Anand.
So these are the topics we will be covering today. First is the implementing consignment inventory, how we use capital projects for procurement, and then one more thing I added was ease of extending maximum. It has 4 or 5 slides, and if you are using other products, then you might appreciate how easily you can get a business process within Maximo, and then link it with the other objects within Maximo. Here's the list of consignment benefits for SunCok. Do you want to jump into that?
Yes, so we moved about $1 million of our inventory in last year into consignments. Obviously, it's on the vendor's books. So that was obviously a very financial driven project. But again, you'll see from some of the configuration Anand did is that this gives us the ability for the end users of the plants to have full visibility and reporting of all items that are in the inventory, whether we own them or a vendor, okay? Because we care about that. The people in the plants, they don't care whether it's vendor owned or not, they just want the part when they need it. And we also have a different view for finance. So when finance looks at our inventory, they only see the parts that SunCok owns. And of course, that's what rolls up into the inventory balance that's taken across the interface. So we basically had to satisfy both groups, and I think Anand did a really good job of doing that for us. Like I said, we moved about $1 million into consignment. We have other items that we're waiting to trip down, because we have a quantity on hand, and once that occurs, then we'll move that over. So it's kind of an ongoing thing, but this is really well embedded into our, storeroom workflow right now.
This is a high-level process of switching an item from a regular to consignment item. It's you see there's 3 roles. There's a warehouse supervisor, there's a buyer, and there's a vendor. So, but the key here is the balance here. So what Maximo needs is it needs as a prerequisite, it needs the balance to be 0, and then of course there shouldn't be any open PRs or POs for that item. Again, a high-level process. So we created a flag on the screen. It's saying that this item is a potential for a future consignment item. So the warehouse supervisors and buyers know that, and they'll make sure we need to take the balance to 0, and then we need to close the POs as soon as we can. So once that is met, at the same time the buyer can start the negotiation with the vendor on the item price. Within Maximo, and I'll show you on the next screen, what Maximo is expecting is when you are ready to switch to consignment, it is expecting that our vendor is already there. So we have already done the negotiation with the vendor, and you come up with the price. So again, this is a high level of converting the item from regular to consignment. It's a straightforward configuration within Maximo. I throw in some screens here. It takes like 10 minutes. You can switch an item from a regular to a consignment. This is the field we added on the inventory, which says it's a future consignment item. so the warehouse supervisors know that this needs to be switched ultimately, 1 month down the line or 6 months down the line. Once they are ready,
Well, hang on, sorry. Future consignment, so say it again, please.
that's a custom field we added. It's just a FYI for people to know that this item has the potential to become a future consignment item.
Potential or will be?
Really, it will be. The only weakness we identified in this system is that Maximo doesn't allow you to keep the current balance of consigned and company owned on a shelf at the same time. I'm told there's other systems that do that. I have not witnessed it, myself. So what we do is when the storeroom supervisors find the opportunity to move stuff into consignment, they check that box. And when they come up on the automatic reorder that we run anywhere between 3 and 5 times a week at the plant, they know not to reorder that because they're trying to deplete that inventory. Once the inventory balance hits a 0, they get a notification saying it's time to call the vendor and convert that into consignment.
Perfect, thank you. Sorry.
So once we are ready, it's a simple two-step configuration. You pull up the item in the inventory, you go to consignment, and then you Maximo needs the vendor. That's a mandatory field because again, it is expecting that we have already finalized the vendor and come up with a price. There are optional fees. There is an invoice generation, which can be upon consumption. That's what we have picked, so which means that basically whenever the item is consumed, Maximo will auto-create the invoice. The other options are, there's a frequency-based and there's a manual option, so somebody would manually create the invoice. But again, the vendor is a mandatory fee, the others are optional. The second configuration is the consignment account, that is mandatory. We need to put in that. So once you fill in the vendor and the consignment account, you check the consignment flag, that's it, we are ready to use it as a consignment item. So till here, at this point we are ready, and the next 4 or 5 slides are the small changes we did to meet our process here at SunCok. So this slide, there's a scenario where we have a contract for 2015 to get an item at $10, and we receive the item in December, and then the contract ends. So we have a new contract for 2016, but they bump up the price to $1.15. And if we are issuing the item in January, we need that to be issued at $1.15, not $1.10. Since we are assuming the item is in our storeroom, but it's still owned by the vendor. So we had to make some tweaks to get that in place. That was one change we made. Second change we did is to the GL accounting process. We have a RBNI process where we calculate the RBNI every day and use it for our internal reporting. We had to change that process for consignment, of course, because the liability now is not on a receipt, but it's going to be on consumption. So we had to tweak the process a bit to show the correct dollar values. Another change we made is to the GL accounts. To keep things simple, we picked one global account within Maximo, regardless of which plant is using it. And then on consumption, we would split the GL to the plant specific. Again, very straightforward. If you see here, we just changed the first 3 to the plant specific GLs. I threw in the AutoScript screen, just again very powerful tool. So we got this functionality of GL account changes with a simple script, bunch of code like 5-6 lines of 4 years. So we pick the first GL segment and then we replace it with what we want. So very powerful use of AutoScripting. Some changes we did on the PO process. Whenever an item is picked for whenever a consignment item was picked for purchasing, we would auto set the PO type to consignment, so we can track it better. Throw in some validations, so only lines are not mixed. So we have only consignment items on one PO and only regular items on another PO. So basically, items are not mixed in the same purchase order. Some validations we threw in, and these are the messages that the users will see in case they are violating that rule. As per the consignment process, when an item is consumed, Maximo will create the invoice, but there was no way for the vendor to know that it is being used. So there was no way for them to know what's the balance we have at any one point of time, so they could plan accordingly. So what we did was when the invoice was auto-created and it went to the approval process, when it was approved, we had a process where we auto-created a PDF file and sent it to the vendor. So it would help the vendors to know how we are consuming the item, they can track the balance, and then of course they can expect the payment. We also added a consignment report which shows the dollar values. So basically gives, and this is also good for the, I guess, for the higher management. It shows what's the savings we are doing, because this is there for SunCok to use, but it's not really owned by SunCok. So we had this process where we would track the dollar values for consignment items on a daily basis. So we could run the report. So it's basically, it's a historical report. You can put in a date of a month back or a week back and say, what's the consignment value. That's it on consignment.
Just make the comment that, like in the past, a lot of times we'd say we have consignment inventory, which meant there was a little area in the back of our storeroom, there were some shelves there, and vendors were bringing stuff in and we were issuing it. But really what Anand's done for us is that these items are all in Maximo. I mean, they're received in Maximo, they're invoiced from Maximo, they show up in the inventory application on all of our reports. They just follow a little different work process behind the scenes, most significantly being that a normal inventory item, SunCok pays for it when it's received, right? On a consignment item, SunCok pays for it when it's issued. So, but to the users, they don't even see that. So it's real nice fit and plan, and well accepted by manufacturing and finance. So
that's it on consignment. Any questions before we go to capital projects?
So this interfaces with Great Plains, GE?
Yes.
It creates batches or...
So with Great Plains we have, so Great Plains is the financial system, and what we do is all the GL transactions, they go as a GL to Great Plains. So same way we keep doing that for consignment. The only change here was on a consignment item, when the consignment item comes in, when we receive, we just take it in. It doesn't go to Great Plains as a GL because it's not a liability. We change that, and then when the item was issued, we send it to Great Plains. So that was the change we did for the consignment process.
Sorry, what version of Maximo? Are you 7.6 or which?
Yeah, 7.6.
7.6.
7.6.
Latest version, we're in the latest.
7.6.
So we had a crack, we've had two tries at this. One was on 7.5 and was a bug. And then we had a little bit on, it was 7.6. Oh, 3 at the moment, and we had another bug.
No, I have a slide here on the version. I think we have 7.6.